Go now to worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address and phone number there if you'd rather give by phone or mail. That's worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you. Go to worldviewtalk.com. Get your satellite phone like I have, because you know what? China is in on our power grid. That is a matter of proven fact. If you want to have communications with your loved ones, your family, your children, maybe your spouse travels, maybe you have a child away at college, you want communication should the grid go down. That's why you need a satellite phone, worldviewtalk.com. But look what else they have. They also have solar generators. I have one of their solar generators. I have the Delta Echo 400, a solar generator. So I can, of course, charge my satellite phone. I can run my coffee pot. I can run my whole house if I want to. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com, or use that number, 1-866-738-3224. They have very friendly operators that will explain to you their products, but you can explain to them or 1-866-738-3224.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
To watch here, the Texas primary contests on both the Republican and Democratic sides, they've been pretty heated. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and State Representative James Tallarico are seen as the primary frontrunners for the Democratic nomination. Crockett is a liberal firebrand known for sparring with Republicans. She's been endorsed by former Vice President Kamala Harris, but Tallarico argues Crockett's combative style could sink Democrats' chances of winning a Senate seat in the Lone Star State for the first time since 1988. Meantime, incumbent GOP Senator John Cornyn is fighting to keep his role as he fends off challenges from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and Congressman Wesley Hunt. The U.S.-Israeli strikes in Iran now emerging as a new flashpoint in the race.
This is the #1 state sponsor of international terrorism, so I support the president's strike.
You cannot allow an Iran with a nuclear weapon.
I think we should trust President Trump, especially when it comes to foreign policy.
How many people are going to have to die because this president just decided that he was going to do whatever he wanted to and to ignore our congressional authority?
Every dollar that we spend bombing people in the Middle East is a dollar that we are not spending on our communities right here at home.
Candidates are also reacting after the shooting in Austin over the weekend, which the FBI is now investigating as a potential act of terrorism. Police confirming overnight that a third victim has died. Arkansas voters also head to the polls, and there's a high-stakes Senate showdown in North Carolina, which Democrats regard as one of their best chances to flip a seat in this year's midterms. Lawrence, Ainsley, and Brian.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rob Maness Show, coming to you live from Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, I tell you what, man, this is a pivotal Tuesday. Today is primary day across those key states like Texas, North Carolina, and Arkansas. Voters are headed to the polls as we speak, fired up to make their voices heard in races that will reshape Congress and beyond, more than likely. But let's zoom in on the Lone Star State, where the themes are crystal clear. Ban Sharia law and throw the bums out. That's right. Texas patriots are rallying around Proposition 10, which is a bold move to explicitly ban Sharia law from influencing our courts and communities. We've got to protect American values, our Constitution, and ensure that foreign ideologies have no place in our justice system. So go on over to bansharia.com to learn more about that and get involved and go vote yes on Prop 10. And speaking of throwing the bums out, the incumbents are feeling the heat. In Texas Congressional District 2, Steve Toth is challenging Dan Crenshaw. That's right, Eye Patch McCain. He may be on his way out. And Toth is promising real conservative leadership without the establishment games. And then down in District 23, Brandon Herrera is taking on Tony Gonzalez, bringing outsider energy to shake things up in a race that has got a guy that his girlfriend, married girlfriend, self-immolated herself while committing suicide over their affair. These races are about draining the swamp, holding these politicians accountable, and putting America first. And I'm thrilled to welcome my friend and our guest today, Kenny Webster, the phenomenal and hilarious Houston radio host and a comedian who's never afraid to call it like he sees it. He's going to give me a whole hour today. Kenny, welcome to the Rob Maness Show, man.
Rob, thanks for having me on, brother. It's a fantastic time to be here. Longtime fan, proud to have supported you over the years, and I love what you've been doing with this show.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Hey, let's just start off by talking about this Senate race for Cornyn's seat there. What's really going on? We saw the little Fox News pitch there. I mean, they're even painting Crockett as a normal type person instead of the whack job that she is.
Okay, let's start with Jasmine. Jasmine's not running for Senate. Jasmine is auditioning to be on The View, which is great. She's going to be a great replacement for Whoopi Goldberg. She has that fresh energy. I think we're all going to love that. James Tallarico, if you're not familiar who he is, he's kind of like if Beto O'Rourke was a suspicious child youth pastor that you don't trust. He takes things out of the Bible and sort of distorts them to create liberal talking points. I don't know if you've ever seen him on TV before. He'll find a verse in the Bible and he'll say, this is proof that God supported abortion. And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but there's nothing in the Bible that supports abortion. It's really the opposite of that, as a matter that God really doesn't want you to murder unborn babies, but that's neither here nor there. John Cornyn, I know, Rob, you and I became friends a decade ago because of our disdain for Republicans like John Cornyn. John is this guy who will argue, he'll brag, he's like, I always vote with the president. And that's true. What he doesn't mention is it's any president, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, he'll vote with. He's the reason that there are drug-addicted people lining the streets of Washington, D.C. He's the reason that we fund transgender puppet shows in Burma. And then you have these other two guys in the race, Wesley Hunt and Ken Paxton, are both a great example of what the new right is. And I know your viewers, much like my radio listeners, are kind of torn on these two guys. And to anybody watching this that hasn't got out and voted yet, maybe you're listening to us in the car, watching us at work, and you're planning on voting after work, I will tell you right now, I think they're both great candidates. I think Wesley Hunt is probably the best lawmaker that Texas has in the House right now. I think Ken Paxton is probably the greatest attorney general of the 21st century, any state. I find a lot of the attacks on these guys to be pathetic. But if there's going to be a runoff no matter what, it doesn't matter. There's 8 candidates in the Republican primary alone. Vote for either one you want, as long as we keep Cornyn below 50%. A vote for Wesley Hunt or a vote for Ken Paxton is a vote against the swamp. One thing's for sure, this Senate race is going to be continuing for months on after this, after whatever happens today.
Yeah, we're seeing the establishment types that we know and love so well attack Paxton with this whole trope about, yo, you're going to give the seat to the Democrat if you vote for Ken Paxton. That's pretty typical. Does that tell you that they think they're in trouble or they know they're in trouble?
So if this is like Groundhog Day starring Bill Murray, I feel like we've done this before. We did this every time Ken Paxton runs for office. What the swamp rats will tell you is, oh, we can't have Ken Paxton. He'll lose to the Democrats. And then he ends up winning by close to double digits. It never matters. It is always a bold-faced lie. But I will say this. Here's what should really concern people right now. The National Republican Senate Committee, that'd be John Thune and Tim Scott, these guys are spending more money than they've ever spent on a primary in the history of our nation. Rob, what they're doing right now is paramount to theft. I mean, what they're doing right now should offend every one of your viewers and listeners, because the money that they're spending right now to try to keep a Republican senator, to try to help John Cornyn defeat other Republicans, should be spent in the general election in places like the Carolinas, in Michigan and Georgia. And I know you know this, but here's really why this matters so much. Let's say they get what they want. Let's say John makes it to the general election and he wins in November and the establishment gets everything that they want. That's fine. Right now they're spending $1 million a day to try to stop Ken Paxton and Wesley Hunt. And these are finite resources that we have, Rob. You and I both know that is not a barrel. That it's not a bottomless pitcher of mimosa, and eventually they're going to run out of this money. And if for some reason we lose the House and the Senate in November and they vote to impeach Trump, you could blame John Cornyn, you could blame John Thune, and you could blame Tim Scott. And why they're doing this is anyone's guess. Anybody out there that's ever donated money to the National Senate Republican Committee or the National Congressional Republican Committee is getting punched in the jujuns right now when they realize that money does not go towards stopping Democrats. It goes towards supporting the establishment.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. You know what the number is, the total? $69 million so far. I saw an interview with Paxton about 24 hours old, and he was saying Cornyn himself has spent $40 million, but the other guys have spent $29 million for a total of $69 million to get this guy, keep this guy in, and he's hated. I think I just tweeted out a little bit ago that we got to get the NRSC and the NRCC to reprioritize so they're not just incumbent protection rackets. That's what's really going on. We've experienced that. We did it. They even did it with Bill Cassidy, and he wasn't even an incumbent at that time. They just liked their Democrat to have on the Republican side. They had to pass a Rule 11 to do that, right?
Yeah, and that's how you and I became friends years ago. Was the Bill Cassidys of this world. I enjoy John Kennedy. I think he says a lot of funny things on TV. He doesn't always vote the way that we want him to, sadly. They can't all be Ted Cruz. They can't all be Mike Lee. They can't all be Rand Paul, sadly. And, we'd really like to see another guy in the Senate like that right now. John Cornyn helped us pass these red flag laws. John Cornyn helped pass every swampy omni-budget bill for the last 25 years. When John Cornyn got into office, I think I was in elementary school, if I'm not mistaken. And to put that into perspective for your viewers, I'm a man in my mid-40s now, Rob. We don't need... John, thank you for your time and your service. We're done with you, my man. It's time to move along. And, this is all downstream from open primaries. If we had closed the primaries in Texas, we wouldn't have a John Cornyn. We wouldn't have a Governor Abbott. We wouldn't have a House Speaker in Texas who every Democrat votes for, even though there's an R by his name. And, as great as Texas is, it sure ain't perfect. And it's just little things like this that we could do to fix it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the primaries. I think, there are 10 or 11 states, Republican states still, that have an open primary. I'm in Mississippi now. We have a primary system similar to yours where Democrats can come in and vote, just ask for a Republican ballot during the primary and vote, and then go vote in the runoff. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Why do we want to let them make that decision?
You don't. You're a football fan, Rob. Who you a big fan? What college team are you into?
Called Ole Miss.
Okay, would you want Alabama's coach to pick the starting lineup for Ole Miss? Because that's what the open primaries are. That's That's what it is. Would you want your ex-girlfriend to decide who your next date's going to be with? No, you would not. Would you want the landlord who evicted you over asbestos issues to choose the next place where you live? That's what open primaries are. That's what it is. It's letting your enemy pick your team. It doesn't make any sense. Now, look, anybody could join any party they want. This is America. That's the beauty of it. It's not like we're talking about Bohemian Grove here, the secret society, the Illuminati. You want to be a Republican, all are welcome. Men, women, they, thems, we don't care. As long as you have, maybe not they, thems, but as long as you have reasonable positions about supporting the Constitution and low taxes and gun rights and freedom of speech. We just don't want you to show up on Election Day, look at the ballot and say, I guess I'll be a Democrat today. It's very problematic. I know it's hard to believe, but the Houston Chronicle, as liberal as they are, they occasionally will publish my op-eds. And just today, they published an op-ed that I wrote about this very topic. And Governor Abbott has spent millions of dollars trying to keep the primaries open, because when you're a liberal Republican like a Governor Abbott or a Dan Crenshaw or a John Cornyn, you know that open primaries are part of the reason why you get to be in a candidacy, that you're letting the enemy decide who is going to go to war for us, figuratively speaking. And I find that very problematic, Rob.
Yeah, say in Mississippi here, it's Republican state senators. They won't let the bill even breathe. They did away with the Trump school choice policy bill that was tried to push through the House and got to the Senate, and they killed it in 90 seconds, no debate. They did the same thing, I think, with closing the primaries down and those kind of things. Heck, they won't even let us have our ballot initiative back, Kitty, because the Supreme Court decision said, well, you only have 4 congressional districts, and this law says 5. You have to have 5 in order to do this. The senators won't even let it out. It's absolutely, and they're Republicans. That's what's really atrocious about this. You would think that the Republican National Committee and the state Republican parties would be able to do something about this and make these changes that we're talking about, but it just never seems to happen. Well, we got to take a real quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about Prop 10, get your take on what's really going on with Muslims and Islam in Texas, because we see a lot of media, even on the independent side especially, about this issue. And Proposition 10 is to ban Sharia law. In Texas, what the heck's going on? We'll be right back with Kenny Webster.
What if millions around the world could access Bible teaching and worldview training for free right now without hitting a paywall? That's exactly what happens every day at worldviewtube.com because of the Worldview Weekend Foundation. We don't lock our live stream behind PayPal. We don't restrict our content to members only. Instead, the Worldview Weekend Foundation helps cover the cost of delivering free educational and ministry programming to people across the nation and around the world. And it's not just programming. My Sunday night church service, where I taught verse by verse through Revelation for 18 months, and now I am teaching through the book of Daniel, is made possible through the support of our church, Worldview Weekend Foundation. If you believe this kind of truth-centered biblical teaching must continue, donate today. Go now to worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address and phone number there if you'd rather give by phone or mail. That's worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you.
Texas is literally turning into Europe, and not in a good way. I'm talking about the Islamification of Texas. If you don't already know, over 40 mosques have opened in the Dallas area alone in the past 3 years. They tried to do that Islamic city where basically they had Sharia law and everything, their own little Islamic city in Texas. And now on the ballot, Proposition 10 for the midterms literally says, do you think Sharia law should be banned in Texas? Like, how is that even a question? And for those of you who are going to come at me and say, well, what about freedom of religion? This has nothing to do with freedom of religion. This has to do with Sharia law versus Western values, Western rights, and all of our freedoms. Because if you don't know anything about Sharia law, let me educate you for a second. Sharia law means that women do not have any rights. Most countries that practice Sharia law don't even allow women to drive. Men and women are not able to cohabitate unless they are married. Women actually need the permission of a man in order to travel. Alcohol is prohibited. Pork products are prohibited. So all of you Texans who love eating your bacon, well, there goes that. So much more. This isn't about religious freedom. This is about Western values, our freedoms as Americans, versus Sharia law, which literally is the opposite of that. Sharia law does not want us to have any freedoms. They want to control us. Women have to be covered head to toe. I like to walk around and be free. I don't know about you. Basically, vote yes on Prop 10.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It is Election Tuesday here on March 3rd in several states, and we're talking to Kenny Webster out of Houston, a radio personality and a great comedian, by the way, out of Houston, Texas, at that part of the state. And Kenny, I couldn't pass up that cold open video because she says based in Malibu on her call sign, so I'm thinking immediately, wow, I finally found a liberal white American woman that understands what reality is when it comes to something like this.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing that we're even having this discussion right now. But as somebody that follows Texas politics pretty closely, over the past decade, we have more than once had this issue where we learned that there are Sharia courts in and around Texas. And it's not that, I think most reasonable people understand, at least for the time being, it's not like there's enough of these people to circumvent or override Texas law. But just looking at raw statistical data, just looking at the numbers of these mosques growing up in our community, they seem to be rapidly growing and appearing very quickly. And this is problematic because we're voting for these people. We don't want to be Dearborn, Michigan. You know, we don't want to be Little Somalia, which is obviously Minneapolis. We don't want these things in Texas. Sadly, it's happening. There's a place in Texas called Epic City. Epic stands for East Plano Islamic Center, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a community where they want to have Sharia law. And look, we're just saying, if that's something you're attracted to, move to Michigan, move to Minneapolis, or maybe just stay out of America.
Yeah, maybe move back to Somalia or Iran. I hear that they love Sharia law there. You could go there all you want. So I know the governor signed some kind of order or bill not long ago saying that the Muslim Brotherhood was a terrorist organization, those kind of things. A lot of these mosques are backed by the Muslim Brotherhood, these Sharia courts we keep hearing about. They're doing like civil type actions. I think I read somewhere it's like in the tens of thousands of decisions they've made, and they're up around the northwest side of Dallas is what I could tell from what I could tell. But why does the Texas need to vote yes on Proposition 10 to actually ban Sharia law if the governor's already taken these actions? Is there something else going on?
Okay, well, you know, a lot of reasons. It's nuanced. It's like a plate of nachos. If you remove the jalapenos, it's still a plate of nachos. It's great that the governor's done this. Right now, there are lawsuits happening. One of the groups that's involved in these lawsuits, one of these groups that was declared an Islamic terror group or a group that supports Islamic terrorism is CAIR, C-A-I-R, the Council for Arabic and Islamic Relations, which, you know, sadly, Rob, they have offices in every major city in Texas that I'm aware of. They're operating very openly. They seem to have incestuous relationships with some of the public schools. Some of these.
I think we lost you, Kenny. Check your mute. Mr. Producer, is it on our end?